The gospel text of today, which is taken from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 3, verses 31 to 35, gives us an indication of the true family of Jesus. The mother of Jesus comes with his cousins and stands outside the house where Jesus is and calls to him. In his response, Jesus takes the listeners beyond the meaning of family as only related by blood to a family related by doing God's will. When Jesus is told that his mother is outside and calling to him, he looks around at the people who are listening to him, at the crowds who are sitting there and hanging on his word, and says in response that it is true that Mary is his mother. It is true that Mary brought him into the world. It is true that she had the privilege of keeping him in a womb for the gestation period of close to 9 months. But it is also true that she is not merely his mother because she brought him into the world, because she gave birth to him. She is his mother primarily because, like him, she too does God's will. In the Gospel of Luke, chapter 1, verse 36 to 38, the response of Mary to the angel is, "Let it be done to me according to God's will." And this is what Jesus is pointing out to today. He is not saying that Mary is not his mother. He is saying that Mary is his mother surely on the physical level, on the surface level, because she gave him birth, but she is also his mother on the deeper level because, like him, she too does God's will. And so the question we have to ask ourselves is, what is God's will for me today? There are times in our lives when we have to make important decisions about our future. It might be the change of a job, the change of a vocation, the choice of a college, the choice of something which is very important for us. At those times, we need to make a discernment. We need to ask for God's guidance, which is available to us through the people whom we encounter, through our friends, our relatives, our neighbors, those whom we consider close to us. After we have put down the pros and cons of that decision, after we have held it up to God, we ask ourselves, which decision that we take gives us an inner peace, an inner joy, an inner satisfaction, a serenity. That is the decision often which we know is God's will. When at the end of the day, we are making our examination of consciousness, we are reflecting on our day. If we feel that we are at peace with ourselves, if sleep comes easily to us, if there is consolation in our hearts, if there is that deep sense of peace and joy, it is very likely that we have done God's will. To do God's will at every moment means this, that I do whatever I have to do. I leave no stone unturned. I do not let anything be left undone. And then I leave what remains in the hands of God. Mary is the epitome of what it means to do God's will. Jesus, of course, is the model beyond all models. If we can imitate our Blessed Mother in doing God's will, then we too will be related to Jesus, not merely because we bear the name Christian, because that alone will never be enough to be related to Jesus, but because we do God's will. So a relative of Jesus, to be related to him, means that at every moment and at any moment we are willing to do God's will. If Jesus were to point to you today, would he point to you as his brother or sister? If yes, why? If no, why not?